JM asks, we've just wrapped up a fascinating dispute in the software space. The client's delighted, and I'd love to showcase this on our website, but I'm not sure how to ask without seeming pushy. What's the best way to approach this? I think the first thing is about striking while the iron's hot. So you want to be able to ask the person for the case study as quickly as possible. But what I wanted to cover to answer this question was, well, firstly, how do you approach the person? What are you going to ask for? And I think most importantly, how are you going to frame the request? I think if we go to the first part, which is how to approach it, having done a lot of case studies for clients myself, I think the first thing is I would suggest changing your mindset around it. Don't think of it like the client's doing you a favor. Think of it like this is something you're offering to them to help them showcase their success. When making the request, also think about whether it's an email or a phone call. My recommendation with something like this is always to go a phone call, but don't blindside the client. Give them a little bit of a heads up, book in a call with them, and then run them through what we're about to talk about. So with a case study, there's kind of lots of ways you can go about it, but in terms of what you could do, I think about it in like 4 tiers. So the first tier is you'd like to publish a feature piece on the website on the case. I think that's the most ambitious one. If you really want to go extreme, you could even ask for a video case study. The second would be a similar type of thing, but you're going to constrain it to just your BD materials. So doing a written case study and something that you're going to put in your proposals or your capability statements. The third tier, I would say, is having like just a sentence or a bullet point on your profile page on your website. Could just be give a very sort of brief example or an overview of what the case was about. And then lastly, it's the same concept, but you're doing it in a way where it's a bit more vague. So you're just referencing it as, well, we've worked on successful types of disputes for software companies, and the type being whatever the dispute was about. We then move to how to frame it. And as I said, I think this is the most important part of like making it safe for them to agree to do the case study. And I would ask yourself firstly is, if this case study was public, does it make them look good? Like, would they want to share this with their network? So an example of like a case that might, especially in a dispute, a case study that might work well and people may want to share it with their network would be, say, a win against a bigger competitor or the government. It's probably not going to be appropriate, say, if it's like a dispute but where you're the employer, you've won a case against an employee. That can always kind of come off a little bit harsh to then go write a case study about it. But in my experience, most clients are quite happy to talk about wins when they're sort of a bit more broader or against like a bigger competitor or a public service or something like that, especially if the case is in the public realm anyway. When framing it to the client, I'd also say it's absolutely fine if they want to anonymize it. So if they're not comfortable putting their name on it, offer that they can do that anonymously. If you have a previous case study, show them that so they can kind of get a feel of what it's going to be like when they get the first draft, which brings me to probably the most important part when asking to do is, I think this is a sort of a must-have, and that's that they get full review rights. So for everything that's going to be published, they get to review it and approve it before it goes out. That goes for the case study itself, any social media promotion, email marketing, whatever you might be doing, they get to approve all of them. Now they might say, don't need to. That's fine, that's their choice, but that's what you need to offer. And I think lastly, I'd also think about how much time is it going to take from their side. So is this something that you can interview them in, say, 15, 30 minutes? I think you want to be upfront about, how long it's going to take them. So in summary, don't think about it as being pushy or intruding. Reframe it so it makes them look fantastic. Tell them they won't have to do a lot, and of course that they'll have final approval on anything before it goes public.